There is a moment in every confrontation where power silently changes hands. It doesn't happen when someone shouts. It doesn't happen when someone proves they're right. It happens the moment you start explaining yourself. Most people believe defending themselves is strength. They think words will save them. They think clarity will protect them. But psychology says something far more uncomfortable. The more you defend, the more authority you give away. Every explanation quietly places you below the person accusing you. Every justification signals that their judgment matters more than your certainty. And here's the truth. Most people never realize. People don't judge you by how true your words are. They judge you by how desperate your delivery feels. This is why silence feels dangerous. This is why not reacting feels wrong. And this is why the calmest person in the room often controls the outcome. In this audiobook, we're not going to teach you how to win arguments. We're going to show you why winning arguments often makes you lose power. You'll understand why silence creates pressure, why non-reaction unsettles attackers, and why the strongest people rarely explain themselves. If you've ever felt the urge to defend your name, your choices, or your worth, stay with me. Not because you need to change who you are, but because you need to remember the power you already have, the invisible reflex. Before you even choose your words, before you decide whether to speak or stay silent, something inside you has already reacted. It happens faster than I thought, faster than logic. Almost like a reflex you never consciously learned, yet have practiced your entire life. The moment someone questions you, accuses you, misunderstands you, your body tightens, your chest contracts, your mind rushes forward, and without asking whether it's necessary, you feel the urge to explain. This is the invisible reflex. Most people believe they defend themselves because they are confident, but psychology tells a different story. We defend because somewhere deep inside, we learned that silence is dangerous. As children, silence often meant guilt. If you didn't explain yourself, you were assumed wrong. If you didn't respond quickly, you were assumed to be hiding something. So you learned early that survival meant clarification. Say something, explain yourself. Don't just stand there. Over time, explanation became safety, defense became obedience, and silence became associated with loss. No one ever told you this consciously. It was absorbed quietly, through tone, punishment, approval, and rejection. So when you're challenged as an adult, your nervous system doesn't ask, "Is this person worth responding to?" It asks a much older question, "Will I be accepted if I stay quiet?" This is why defending yourself feels automatic. It doesn't feel like a choice. It feels like self-preservation. But here's the uncomfortable shift you must see. What once protected you may now be exposing you. Because the world you're navigating now is not the world you grew up in. In adult power dynamics, explanation is no longer protection. It is positioning. When you defend yourself, you don't just share information. You silently agree to a hierarchy. You accept that the other person has the right to question you. You accept that their perception matters. You accept that your value is negotiable. And, most importantly, you place yourself in the role of the defendant. The mind of the observer picks up on this instantly. They don't analyze your logic. They don't fact-check your words. They read your state, your speed, your tone, your urgency. Defense carries urgency. Urgency signals insecurity, and insecurity invites pressure. This is why two people can say the same sentence, and only one of them sounds powerful. The difference is not intelligence. It is not confidence in words. It is freedom from the need to be believed. The invisible reflex doesn't come from weakness. It comes from conditioning. And once you understand that, you stop judging yourself for reacting and start observing why you react. Notice how the urge to defend spikes when someone important is watching. Your reputation feels threatened. You fear being misunderstood, or you sense rejection. These moments are not random. They activate the same emotional circuits formed years ago, and until you see this reflex clearly, you will continue to mistake reaction for strength. This is why many intelligent people lose power in conversations, not because they lack logic, but but because they move too fast to protect an image. Silence to them feels like collapse. But silence is only collapse when you believe your worth needs explaining. The moment you stop seeing defense as protection, a new question appears: what happens if I don't react at all? That question marks the beginning of power, because power doesn't start with speaking better. It starts with interrupting the reflex. And in the next part, we'll look directly at why defending yourself, no matter how truthful you are, often makes you appear weaker, not stronger. Why defense looks like weakness. Once you see defense as a reflex, another uncomfortable realization follows. Defending yourself doesn't just fail to protect you, it often does the opposite. It makes you look weaker, not because you're wrong, not because your explanation lacks logic, but because of how the human mind reads power. People like to believe they judge situations rationally. They don't. They judge states. They don't listen to what you say first. They sense how you say it. Your speed, your tone, your urgency, your emotional temperature. And defense is always warm. It carries tension. It carries effort. It carries a subtle plea: please understand me. That plea is invisible to you, but obvious to everyone else. This is why calm statements feel heavier than long explanations. This is why silence feels intimidating. And this is why the person who explains the least often controls the room. Defense, by its nature, reacts. And the moment you react, you acknowledge that someone else set the frame. You didn't choose the conversation. You didn't define the terms. You stepped into a role that was already written for you, the role of the defendant. In any social interaction, the defendant is never in control. They answer. They clarify. They justify. They chase understanding. The judge, on the other hand, does none of these things. The judge listens, observes, and decides whether a response is even necessary. When you defend yourself, you unconsciously promote the other person to judge. You give them authority without them ever earning it. And the audience, whether it's one person or many, feels this shift immediately. They may not articulate it. They may not even notice it consciously, but they feel it. Defense communicates urgency. Urgency communicates insecurity. Insecurity invites pressure, questioning, and escalation. This is why defending yourself often leads to more attacks, not fewer. The more you explain, the more openings you create. Each sentence becomes a new surface to challenge. Each detail becomes something to twist. Each justification invites another accusation, not because people are cruel, but because power dynamics reward imbalance. A calm presence unsettles. A defending presence feeds. This is also why truth doesn't save you in confrontations. You can be completely right and still lose authority, because authority is not granted to the truthful, it is granted to the composed. The human nervous system reads composure as safety, and it reads safety as leadership. Defense breaks composure. It signals that something is at stake for you. That approval matters. That perception matters. And the moment perception matters more than presence, power slips away. This doesn't mean you should never speak. It means speech must come from choice, not compulsion. From stillness, not urgency. From certainty, not fear of misunderstanding. Once you grasp this, a deeper question emerges. If defending makes you look weaker, what happens when you don't defend at all? That question makes most people uncomfortable, because silence feels like exposure. But in the next part, you'll see why silence doesn't expose weakness. It exposes others, and why the absence of reaction creates a psychological vacuum that very few people can tolerate. The power of silence. When you stop defending yourself, something strange happens, not inside you, but inside the other person. At first, silence feels empty, uncomfortable, exposed. Your mind tells you that you should say something, anything, just to break the tension. But that tension is not your enemy. It is the shift. Silence creates a psychological vacuum, and the human mind hates vacuums. When there is no reaction, no explanation, no emotional signal to read, the other person is forced to confront uncertainty. They can't measure you. They can't place you. They can't predict you. And when prediction fails, control weakens. This is why silence feels threatening to people who attack. An accuser depends on response. They depend on engagement. They depend on emotional movement. Your reaction feeds their position. Your silence starves it. Without words to push against, their momentum collapses inward. They begin to speak more, explain themselves, justify their tone, clarify their intent, not because you asked, but because silence invited exposure. This is the vacuum of silence. It doesn't shout, it doesn't argue, it doesn't compete. It waits, and waiting shifts power. Most people misunderstand silence. They think it is passive, weak, avoidant. It is not. Silence is active restraint. It is the decision not to fill space just because space exists. It is confidence without performance. When you remain silent after an accusation, you force the other person to reveal more than they intended. Their insecurity leaks. Their aggression sharpens or softens. Their motives surface, and the observers notice. They notice who is stable and who is scrambling. Silence removes the illusion of balance. One person is still, the other is moving, and in human perception, stillness carries weight. This is why the calmest presence in a room often feels dominant, even without authority, even without words. But silence is not absence. It is signal control. You are not refusing to communicate. You are refusing to react on someone else's timeline. You are saying, without saying it, I am not rushed by your judgment. This is deeply unsettling to people who rely on emotional pressure, because pressure only works when it meets resistance. Silence offers none. It absorbs, and absorption turns attack into imbalance. But here is the critical distinction. Silence only works when it is not used as a tactic. If silence is forced, it leaks tension. If silence is used to manipulate, it feels artificial. True silence comes from inner certainty, from the absence of the need to be understood. And this is where most people fail. They stay silent on the outside while arguing internally. That internal noise destroys the effect. In the next part, we'll explore a technique that looks playful on the surface, but is rooted in deep psychological dominance, a way to neutralize attacks, without defensiveness, without silence, and without losing composure. Agree and amplify. Silence isn't the only way power moves. Sometimes, power moves when you agree, but not the way most people agree. Most people agree to end conflict. They agree to calm things down. They agree to be liked. That kind of agreement is submission. What we're talking about here is different. This is an agreement without apology, agreement without explanation, agreement without shrinking. It's called agree and amplify. When someone accuses you, they expect resistance. They expect denial, justification, defense. Their mind is prepared for friction. So when you calmly agree, you remove the battlefield. But when you amplify that agreement, you remove their footing. Imagine an accusation meant to provoke shame. Now imagine responding with calm exaggeration, not sarcasm, not mockery, but controlled absurdity. You don't push back, you lean forward, lightly, and in doing so, you turn their attack into a caricature. This creates what psychologists call amused mastery. You are not threatened. You are not offended. You are not reactive. You are entertained. And nothing disarms aggression faster than the realization that it failed to land. Agree and amplify works because it exposes intention. If the accusation was serious, your calm agreement diffuses it. If it was meant to humiliate, your amplification reveals it. Either way, you remain untouched. This technique shifts the emotional burden. Suddenly, the accuser must explain themselves. They must clarify the tone, justify intent, backtrack, not because you challenged them, but because you removed resistance. And without resistance, their pressure collapses. Observers sense this immediately. They see who is relaxed. They see who is trying too hard. Power, once again, flows toward composure. But there is a rule most people miss: agree and amplify only works when your ego is not involved. If you secretly need to protect your image, your agreement will sound forced. If you feel threatened inside, your exaggeration will leak tension. The strength of this technique comes from inner indifference, not apathy, but freedom from needing approval. You are not trying to win. You are not trying to convince. You are not trying to control perception. You are letting perception reveal itself. And when perception reveals insecurity, it never belongs to the calm one. This is why agree and amplify feels dangerous to beginners. It feels like surrender, but it isn't. It's precision. You are choosing where the energy goes and where it doesn't. In the next part, we'll look at a quieter, more neutral technique. One that doesn't exaggerate, don't joke, doesn't react. It simply absorbs truth without accepting shame. Fogging, truth without shame. Not every attack deserves silence. Not every accusation deserves exaggeration. Sometimes the most powerful response is neither resistance nor performance. It is neutrality. Fogging is the ability to accept a fragment of truth without accepting the emotional weight attached to it. When someone attacks you, they are rarely interested in facts. They are interested in impact. They want a reaction. They want tension. They want to see whether their words can move you. Fogging denies them all three. Instead of arguing, you calmly acknowledge what is objectively true and ignore everything meant to shame you. No defense, no justification, no counterattack, just clarity. This creates confusion in the attacker's mind. They expected friction. They prepared for resistance, but they encounter calm agreement without collapse. And that combination is disorienting. Fogging works because it separates truth from emotion. Most people fuse the two. They hear criticism and immediately absorb the feeling attached to it. Fogging breaks that fusion. You recognize the factual layer without inheriting the emotional agenda. You're not denying reality, you're refusing the narrative built around it. This is why fogging feels cold to people who rely on guilt. There is nothing to grab onto, no insecurity to exploit, no urgency to escalate. The conversation loses momentum. Observers notice something subtle. You're not defensive, you're not playful, you're not silent. You're grounded, and grounding signals authority. Fogging also protects you internally. It prevents the nervous system from spiking. It prevents the mind from racing. It keeps your center intact. You are not shrinking. You are not inflating. You are standing still. But here's the boundary most people miss. Fogging is not indifference. It is awareness without attachment. If you secretly feel ashamed, fogging will feel hollow. If you need validation, fogging will feel like suppression. The technique only works when you have made peace with imperfection. When flaws are acknowledged internally, external accusations lose leverage. This is why fogging is not a trick. It is an expression of inner stability, and stability cannot be forced. In the next part, we'll move beyond techniques and look at where real power is built, not in response, not in silence, but in the internal architecture that makes all external pressure irrelevant. Part 6. Internal Architecture of Power. Every technique you've heard so far only works when something deeper is already in place. Without that foundation, silence becomes tension, agreement becomes insecurity, and neutrality becomes suppression. Power does not come from what you do. It comes from how settled you are before you do anything at all. This is the internal architecture of power. It begins with a truth most people avoid. You cannot be attacked where you have already accepted yourself. Criticism only hurts where resistance exists. Accusations only land where denial lives. When flaws are hidden, they become leveraged. When they are owned, they dissolve. This is why people who truly know themselves are difficult to provoke. They don't need to defend an image. They don't need to protect a story. They don't need to convince anyone who they are. Their identity is not under negotiation. Internal architecture is built through self-acceptance, not self-improvement. Most people misunderstand this. They think power comes from fixing weaknesses, from polishing flaws, from becoming better. But power comes from integration, from knowing your limitations without making them personal, from recognizing mistakes without turning them into identity. When you stop fighting your own imperfections, external attacks lose their entry point. There is nothing to hook into. This is why insecure people react strongly. They are not reacting to the accusation. They are reacting to the part of themselves they haven't made peace with. The accusation simply activates it. A settled mind remains unhooked. This doesn't mean you stop growing. It means growth is no longer fueled by shame. You are no longer trying to prove worth. You are no longer trying to erase flaws. You are standing on solid ground. And from solid ground, you don't rush to respond. You don't rush to correct. You don't rush to explain, because urgency only appears when identity feels threatened. Internal power removes urgency. This is why true authority feels quiet. There is no tension behind it, no hunger for validation, no need for applause. Just presence, and presence is unshakable. When your internal architecture is stable, external behavior becomes simple. You don't need to remember techniques. You don't need to calculate responses. Silence happens naturally. Agreement happens playfully. Fogging happens effortlessly, because nothing inside is demanding defense. In the next part, we'll look at how this inner stability changes your position in real conversations, not by what you say, but by the role you occupy. We'll explore what happens when you stop being the defendant and quietly become the judge. Part 7. Becoming the judge, not the defendant. Every conversation has roles. Most people don't choose them. They step into them. The moment you begin defending yourself, a role is assigned. You become the defendant, and once that role is accepted, everything you say is filtered through suspicion. Your words are evaluated. Your tone is examined. Your intent is questioned, not because you're wrong, but because the frame has already been set. Power shifts when you stop accepting that frame. Becoming the judge doesn't mean you attack. It doesn't mean you dominate. It means you stop responding from a lower position. Instead of answering questions, you observe them. Instead of reacting to accusations, you examine their origin. You begin to ask, quietly, calmly, why this conversation exists in the first place. This subtle shift changes everything. When you respond with a question instead of a defense, the spotlight moves. Not aggressively, not confrontationally, naturally. The accuser is no longer speaking from authority. They are now being understood. And understanding exposes intention. Questions slow the interaction. They disrupt momentum. They remove emotional acceleration. And emotional acceleration is where manipulation lives. When you slow the pace, you reclaim control. This is why calm questions feel unsettling. They force clarity. They force self-awareness. They force accountability. Most accusations rely on speed and pressure. When pressure meets stillness, it collapses. Observers notice the shift immediately. The person who is calm, curious, and unhurried appears grounded. The person who pushes, interrupts, or escalates appears unstable. Without raising your voice, without asserting dominance, you quietly become the one deciding what matters. You are no longer proving yourself. You are assessing the interaction. This is the essence of the judge's position. It is not power over others, it is power over the frame. And frame control determines outcome. But this role cannot be faked. If you secretly feel inferior, your questions will sound defensive. If you crave approval, your calm will feel forced. The judge's position only works when your internal architecture is stable. When your worth is not on trial, you stop acting like it is. In the next part, we'll move from understanding this role to practice it. A deliberate discipline that removes the reflex to defend and replaces it with presence. Part 8. The no defense discipline. Understanding power is one thing. Living it is another. Most people agree with these ideas intellectually, and then abandon them the moment discomfort appears. Because the reflex to defend is not just psychological. It is physiological. It lives in the nervous system. That is why awareness alone is not enough. There must be discipline. The no defense discipline is simple in structure and difficult in practice. For a set period of time, you remove one behavior from your life. You stop defending yourself, not dramatically, not performatively, quietly. When questioned, you pause. When accused, you slow down. When misunderstood, you resist the urge to correct immediately. This creates discomfort, and that discomfort is the point. Defense has been your emotional anesthesia. Remove it, and sensation returns. Anxiety rises, the mind searches for escape, the ego demands relief, and this is where transformation happens. Each time you choose stillness over reaction, you weaken the reflex. Each time you allow silence to exist, you retrain your nervous system. You learn that nothing collapses when you don't explain. Your reputation doesn't shatter. Your relationships don't implode. Your worth doesn't evaporate. What disappears instead is the illusion of urgency. This discipline reveals something uncomfortable. Many of your explanations were never necessary. They were habits. They existed to soothe internal fear, not to resolve external conflict. As days pass, a shift begins. You notice how often others fill the silence for you, how quickly accusations soften, how pressure fades without resistance. You begin to feel the difference between control and composure. Control exhausts. Composure stabilizes. The discipline is not about winning interactions. It is about reclaiming internal authority. You are teaching your system that approval is optional. That misunderstanding is survivable. That silence is safe. And when silence becomes safe, power becomes natural. But discipline alone is not the destination. There is one final transformation that occurs when defense truly dissolves, a change that affects how people treat you before you speak. In the final part, we'll look at what happens when the need to defend disappears completely, not in theory, but in life. Part 9. What changes when you stop defending? There comes a moment when the urge to defend no longer appears, not because you suppress it, but because there is nothing left to protect. This is where the real change begins. When you stop defending yourself consistently, people respond differently, not because you demanded respect, not because you explained your boundaries, but because your presence changed. Your words slow down, your tone settles, your reactions disappear, and without realizing it, others begin to adjust. They speak more carefully, they choose their words, they test less, not out of fear, but out of uncertainty. They are no longer sure where to push. When you remove defense, you remove predictability, and predictability is what people use to apply pressure. You also begin to notice something internal. You feel less tired after conversations, less mentally cluttered, less consumed by replaying moments in your head. The energy once spent explaining is now available for awareness. You see conversations more clearly. You notice the tone before the content, intent before words, dynamics before arguments. This clarity changes your choices. You respond when a response adds value. You remain silent when silence carries weight. You disengage without guilt, because you are no longer proving yourself to anyone. This is the quiet authority people talk about but rarely experience. It is not dominance. It is not intimidation. It is self-possession. And self-possession changes how the world meets you. People stop confusing your calm for weakness. They stop mistaking your silence for confusion. Because silence, when it is not defensive, feels intentional. And intention commands respect. This is why those who have nothing to prove often appear powerful. They are not managing perception. They are not negotiating identity. They are simply present. The greatest shift happens here. You stop asking, how do I respond to this? And start asking, is this worth responding to at all? That question filters everything. And once that filter is in place, most conflicts dissolve before they form. The need to defend fades because the need for validation fades with it. And when validation no longer drives you, power becomes effortless. In the final moments, we will not summarize techniques. We will not repeat lessons. We will step back and let silence do what it does best. Reveal what remains when defense is gone. The quiet power. At some point, you stop looking for the perfect response, not because you learned a better one, but because you realized you no longer need one. The world taught you to believe that your worth must be defended. That silence invites judgment. That explanation is protection. But what you've seen here is something far more honest. Defense was never a strength. It was a habit born from fear, from conditioning, from the belief that approval equals safety. When you release that belief, everything slows down. You speak less and mean more. You react less and observe more. You stop trying to control perception and start respecting presence. This is not withdrawal. This is not avoidance. This is authority without announcement. You don't argue for space. You occupy it. You don't chase understanding. You allow it to arrive or not. And either way, you remain whole. The strongest shift is not how others see you. It's how you see yourself. You no longer feel rushed by judgment. You no longer feel threatened by misunderstanding. You no longer feel obligated to perform clarity. Silence becomes comfortable. Stillness becomes natural. And calm becomes your default language. This is where power lives. Not in control over others, but in freedom from their expectations. Not in winning conversations, but in choosing which ones matter. When you stop defending yourself, you don't lose respect. You lose the need for it. And in that loss, something quieter and far more durable appears. Presence. Carry that with you, and let the world adjust.